The end. Or is it? Save your clear data. Once you do, post-game fun will be available. Yes, we will. We're interested in post-game fun. Okay, so if I back out, will it take me to the main title screen, or will it try to immediately spongler us? Okay, this is how we want it to be. So let me get back into Weapons World, and then we're gonna kind of warp to the world map, and I have some thoughts. All right. Well, that was pleasant. I thoroughly enjoyed this game. I thoroughly enjoyed the original game when I replayed it after a long dry spell back in January of 2022, thanks to Teishi's Redeem. And that it reintroduced me to Super Mario RPG and all of its fun. At that particular time when I played it, I scored it a 91. It's truly one of the best RPGs out there. Its pacing, timing is incredible. You don't really dawdle or linger in any particular area for way too long unless you're crazy like me and you have mini games and stuff to do. But all of the dungeons are pretty reasonably paced. Nothing drags on for too long. Cutscenes are reasonable. You go from area to area so fast. The game is extremely quick if you just go from place to place, and so it just makes it very, very easy. I as far as like I dropped the controller. That's why Mario is moving all over the place. So as far as like a piece of media and what an artistic representation, I prefer the original more than this. I just do. I think the way that it was just constructed and how everything works, looks quite a bit better, and sound composition really works a lot better for that game than it does in this. But this is the better game. Like, this is a much better game in terms of how it implements mechanics. It has so many quality of life changes that it kind of justifies its existence. That's kind of one of the big things for a lot of people with remakes is, why does this need to be here? What's wrong with the original? I'm less cynical because I'm like, the original's still gonna be there. It's not like the existence of any kind of remake is going to make the original somehow less worthy to play. It's still gonna be just as good as it was before. Although, after playing this, I don't know if that's true anymore. This game introduced so many quality of life changes that in some respects it may be tougher going back to the original. It doesn't mean that the 91 score is diminished at all, but let me just kind of showcase what I mean. Number one, what do we do when we want to... Oh wait, this is just going to get us a cutscene at Vista Hill. I don't want to imagine a world where hopes and wishes can't come true. We need to hurry and collect the star pieces. Let's get back at it, everyone. All right. I tried to choose a location. We chose the one literal location where I can't actually continue my thoughts and summary. So let's go to Mario's iPad over here. Yeah, so just go to his iPad. And now we can think about it. Number one, item management. Instead of having the 29 inventory with the trash can, now you can have certain maximums of every single item, and now you have them conveniently displayed in a list. And so, let's say I want to go ahead and use the flower jar right now. What happens if I go over here and press A? The game says, no, you can use recovery items in the field with X. The game will literally not let you use items from the main menu anymore. They actually want to train your brain to just immediately press X in the overworld. Here's everything you could hope to with an easy, quick scroll access. And I think it's nice to be able to just conveniently train your brain to do that. Also, just being able to pull up groups healing spells just with the push of a button. I think it's very convenient. I can't tell you how frustrating item management has been in some of the older RPGs. Because I'm a hoarder. Like, I don't want to toss any item away if I can help it. I need all 99 potions for the final boss, apparently, that I'm never going to use even one of, but I need all of them. And if you ever exceed the maximum, all of them get sent to the storage bin right here in Mario's house. So every time I've ever had too much, it's been added to this inventory here. So I have 12 rock candies just chilling here because 3 is the maximum I can carry. And so I think that's a much better feature. The splash damage in combat is wonderful. I think it really helps make grinding a lot more convenient, a lot more easy. You're minimizing the amount of time you're spending doing mob fights in the overworld, which is always helpful. Not that combat was a drag in the original, but this definitely helped. And furthermore, the game has quick travel anywhere. Anytime in any location in the game, you can just hop to the map, and instead of having to manually drag your character, you could go to different locations. And if certain places are big enough, like let's say for example Booster's Tower, it will give you different checkpoints to warp to. It makes the three musketeers, or whatever they're called, musty fears, excuse me, side quest a lot more simple because you can just warp without having to either find a spring that knocks you out, which has actually been removed because of quick travel. It exists in the original, but doesn't exist in this. And you could just warp out anywhere, which is great. And if you don't like the new soundtrack, which some of the newer tracks unfortunately are hit and miss, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter because you can literally change it back to the original classic soundtrack at any time. As far as the, I don't want to change it to breezy. Wait, is it not going to let me... Excuse me. Excuse me. There we go. I was about to say, why is it not letting me go back to normal? But in any event, and you apparently can change the difficulty at any time if it's too hard for you. Although the game really is not hard, and that brings it really to its biggest downside. The breeziness shouldn't carry over to boss fights. The game is stupidly easy. Boss fights can be done in an instant because of this game's mechanic, because of the fact that there's chain gauges that raise your stats upon getting certain chains. Enemies die a lot sooner, and that includes bosses, especially if there are bosses with multiple parts. You can just hit multiple enemies without meaning to. The only reason a lot of these boss fights lasted as long as they did, let's face it, is because I was thought peeking them. Cool-X probably wouldn't have run out of FP if I wasn't spending 5 rounds manually selecting Mallow to do everything, except it wasn't 5 rounds because I think Mallow got down that I had to spend a whole turn reviving him because he didn't survive long enough to be able to scan everybody. So that's the real reason Cool-X took so long, and the real reason a lot of these bosses took so long. Otherwise, they would have died in an instant. I'm a firm believer that mob fights, random encounters you fight in the overworld, those need to be fast. You don't want to spend forever in them. But boss fights, you want to just savor for a while. And because of this game's absolute skewed balance, because of the convenience of being able to do timed hits for splash damage and everything else, and boost to everything else, all of your stats randomly that you didn't get in the original game, bosses just don't challenge you anymore. This game really needed a harder difficulty mode, and it just doesn't give you one. And regardless of whether or not the game gives me post-game content like extreme super bosses or other hard content, it doesn't change the fact that the base game was overly simplified in not very good respects with the bosses. I love it for the main enemies, but you shouldn't have done it. Or you should have at least buffed the stats of the bosses or just did something different with them, just so that it wasn't having to be like they're dead already, and I didn't even get a chance to just say hello. You didn't even get to know that the enemies summon other enemies because you're just killing them so quickly. But overall, the game scores higher than a 91. It gets a 92. I know that sounds like I'm just arbitrarily throwing an extra point to make it just better than the original, but I mean, I think the quality of life changes are super high, but the fact that the bosses and the balance is just completely killed because of the introduction of several of the mechanics of this game, it can't reach greater heights than a 92. It probably deserves to reach higher heights, but because the balance is just not there anymore, I feel I feel I have to nerf it. I have to nerf it, but the game is great. All of the magic I felt playing the original game, I still felt playing this. And I would likely revisit this game again in the future if given a chance. And while I'm on the menu, the frog coins. If you suck at minigames, which I apparently do, because I had to redo so many of them, you could just fight enemies and get coins naturally. It's so convenient, and there's no coin limit of 999. That was always frustrating because you might need to have inventory management. You'd run out of money too soon because you can't sell without exceeding 999 at a time. Uh, what else? Is there anything else? I don't know if there's anything else. I think, I think the game was great. I had a good time. Um, I think that's really all I had to say. The game's great. If you haven't played it, play it. I will likely replay it at some point in the future, but if I do, obviously I probably wouldn't sit down and read everything, and I might try to just make it a more streamlined start to finish type of adventure. Maybe try to do things a little bit lower level just to try to mitigate how easy the game got, because it's just so fast. It's just so fast playing this from start to finish.